Welcome to Interest 2021 and to our session on accessing effective treatments and preventive tools at affordable prices. My name is Joseph Baluku. I was honored to be the winner of the Jopling Award at Interest 2020. My co-chair for this session is Kwasi Topi, who also happens to be the scientific chair for Interest 2021. I am pleased to introduce the speaker for our session, Sébastien Morin. Dr. Sébastien Morin joined the Medicines Patent Pool in 2019 as a policy and advocacy manager, bringing 6 years of experience in policy and advocacy in HIV and viral hepatitis. Before joining the Medicines Patent Pool, he was a research officer at the International AIDS Society, where he was a leader in industry liaison forum on pediatric HIV and regulatory affairs. He also spearheaded the HIV co-infections and comorbidities initiative in the areas of hepatitis C and tuberculosis. Dr. Morin has authored several publications on pediatric drug formulations, hepatitis C, COVID-19, people who inject drugs, regulatory affairs, and treatment access. He holds a PhD in biochemistry from the Laval University in Quebec, Canada, and also completed postdoctoral training at the University of Basel in Switzerland. Welcome, Sébastien.
Good day, everyone, and thanks for the invitation to be speaking at Interest 2021. I'm very glad to be talking about access to medicines this year. The first thing I'd like to talk about today is about the mechanisms around access to medicine, in particular, public health voluntary licensing. As you might know, access to medicines is a multidimensional challenge. It includes a number of areas of focus and challenges, including availability and affordability, which I will focus on today. In terms of affordability, one of the approaches to bring prices down is really about getting in competition. And we can do that through increasing the number of generic versions of drugs on the market. And you will see with benchmarks shown on this slide that as the number of generics increases in a given market, might be a country or a different setting, the prices will come down. And so more competition leads to lower prices, which leads to increased uptake. And when this is about increasing uptake of optimal products, this leads to beneficial outcomes and health impact. And that's what we want to see. So there's multiple scenarios to increase or support entry of generic manufacturers. The first case, obviously, is when a product might not be patented. And that's the case, for example, with sofosbuvir and aclatasvir in Egypt. And this has led the country to be able to develop local production and really ramp up their HCV elimination program. Second case scenario is when a patent might have expired. And there's a number of drugs on the WHO EML, the essential medicines list, which are expired. And so that includes, for example, lamivudine. The third case, and that's where we will focus today, is when a new innovative product might be on the market, but a license will allow generic manufacturers to come in. And that's the case with public health voluntary MPP licenses, so licenses from the Medicines Patent Pool for a number of the WHO recommended HIV and hepatitis C drugs. So how does this work? So the MPP model for public health voluntary licenses includes approximately 5 steps. So the first step is identifying the drugs of interest. So it's a prioritization exercise to look at which drug might have the most public health benefits when uptake might be increased, so when access might be improved. Second step is about approaching the originator companies, convincing them that licensing their products will lead to public health benefits, and making sure that the licenses include the largest territory possible and as much public health clauses as possible. Third step is opening an expression of interest to select sub-licensees, so generic companies, which will be able to bring the product to market. These companies are selected based on their track record in terms of quality, capacity to manufacture, but also the footprint in different countries. Fourth step is about accelerating development of the licensed products, and this is done through license management and support from MPP and other stakeholders. And the fifth step is increasing availability at the country level. That's where support is given to countries to register, to make sure there's no gaps, and leading to reduced cost and improving health. So acceleration is really key. Acceleration for development and scale-up are key. So here what you can see are the timelines between approval of the originator product and entry of substantial generic competition on the market. And here we qualify this as being 2 generic versions being on the market. And for tenofovir, lopinavir, ritonavir, this took 7 or 8 years without public health voluntary licenses. And when voluntary licenses with a public health perspective were brought in, these timelines reduced to 4 or 5 years for example, with dolutegravir and that for HIV and daclotazvir for hepatitis C. When we look at further, and really what we want is substantial uptake of these products, not only having generic on the market, but what we see is that even their public health voluntary licenses will shorten the timelines. And so, for example, for tenofovir, it took 4 to 6 years before substantial tenofovir uptake without licensing. And for dolutegravir with licensing, it took 1 to 3 years before widespread uptake on the market. A lot of work is ongoing behind the scene to make this happen, including from other stakeholders, but the MPP contribution around the management of its licenses is really to build stronger competition faster. And this is done in 3 areas. The first area is about development, where there might be tech transfer packages, information, incentives given, including intelligence around what competitors might be doing so that companies can really ramp up their game and go faster if they want to be the ones succeeding. There's also support done around regulatory filings and approvals to make sure that this is going fast and well. And also there's monitoring of the sales and to make sure that we leave no one behind and that no country is forgot. So the next thing I would like to talk about are online tools. So tools that you can use to really look at the patent status, licenses that make generic possibility to enter, and approvals or supplies of products. So the first set of tools is a collection which we call the PAL suite, which is basically around curated country-specific data. PAL includes patents and license information for all patented essential medicines, as well as a number of candidate medicines for COVID, HIV, hepatitis C, and other areas. VaxPal is very new, covers COVID-19 vaccine patents, and LayPal covers long-acting public health potential technologies. So that's also quite new. In terms of tracking what's happening at the country level, we have the Access to Medicines tracker. We have a map that's interactive that you can look at. You can look at this on a quarterly basis. There will be historical information. This gives information about what's available in each country, what can be accessed. So there's a patent and licensing status information that is available, but also approvals, filings for regulatory approval, and supplies are shown. And here you can show this with different colors shown for an hepatitis C product. The table gives essentially the same information, but can export this information in an Excel format. In addition, it gives indication on which companies have which type of stringent regulatory approval. So that's the FDA approval, the ERP, that's temporary, or the WHO pre-qualification. So the last thing I'd like to talk about today is the next frontiers in terms of access to treatment and prevention. So some of the targets or priorities looking at the future. In the area of HIV and TB, priorities for in-licensing include cabotegravir long-acting injectable to be used as PrEP for prevention, the dapivirine vaginal ring to be used as prevention as well, and islatravir and lenacapavir, which are 2 drugs in the pipeline. For TB, the priority remains bedaquiline for the treatment of MDR TB. On top of these drugs, which are really chased for in-licensing, there's a number of watch list medicines which are in the pipeline in clinical studies and which we are monitoring to make sure that when they are ready, we prioritize those too. Beyond this area of core historical contribution of MPP in HIV, TB, and hepatitis C, there are essential medicines, long-acting technologies, and COVID-19 health technologies that we are looking at as well. Potential targets here, really just illustrative examples, include in the essential medicine space, the NOACs for cardiovascular diseases, the SGLT2 inhibitors for diabetes, or the CDK4/6 inhibitors for cancer. In COVID, there are drugs like molnupiravir as well as sotrovimab, which are of potential interest. And lastly, what I'd like to say, and that's possibly the take-home message, is that MPP is there to support access at the country level to optimal treatments recommended by WHO. And you can get information and access opportunities either on our website and using our tools that I've shown before, or directly being in contact with us. And my contact details are on this slide. You can also inform us if you are interested to roll out an MPP licensed medicine, or if you want to increase generic competition in case there's not enough in your country. You can tell us when there are issues as well in terms of quality or stockouts that can be happening or something else. And lastly, you can tell us of what's the future in terms of access to new products for you. So what should we be prioritizing? And with this, I will end and thank our funders, Unitaid, for their support, and the Swiss Confederation as well. And thank you for your interest. Have a nice day.